All right, good evening. I'm going to call tonight's meeting to order. As I told you earlier, we have two council members out. We're still waiting on Mr. Washington to arrive. But we'll go ahead and start the meeting. And I would like to ask you to stand for invocation by Mrs. McKinney and remain standing for the pledge of allegiance.
Let us pray. Our dear kind Heavenly Father, we do acknowledge you as the one in whom we live and move and have our being. We thank you for this opportunity to serve, and we invite your presence as we go through the items that you have placed before us as the agenda for this county council. We ask your blessings upon everyone under the sound of my voice. Bless them in the ways that you already know that they're in need of, and just give them also the desires of their hearts. Continue to bless our men and women who are serving our country in uniform, especially those in harm's way. Don't forget about the war-torn areas in this world and the innocent children and women and families that are being harmed by war. We just ask that you continue to look down upon us and to grant us the needs that you know that we are in need of. These are our blessings we thank and ask in your name. Amen. Amen.
Tonight, we will be led in pledge allegiance by retired Colonel David Bush Hanson, as he's better known as Bush. Mr. Hanson, Colonel Hanson, served in our country from June 1973 to April 2000. He is the current president of Sumter County Veterans Association. Mr. Hanson currently lives in County Council District 4, and thank you for your service.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen. Oh.
Before we move on the agenda, I would like to recognize a member of the audience, our new executive director, Sam Lynch's council, Dennis Cycle. If you would stand, and thank you for being here tonight. And congratulations. Ms. Bland, any changes to the agenda?
There are no changes to the agenda.
Your motion on the approval of the agenda?
Move for approval, Mr. Chair, Vice Chair.
Your second? Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Approval minutes of Tuesday, August the 9th. Your motion?
Move for approval, Mr. Vice Chair.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. So, down to land use matters and rezoning requests. I don't see Helen, but we have a substitute too. Mr. Dale.
Good evening, council members. Jeff Durward, zoning administrator. So this is a second reading for RZ 2207, 4510 US Highway 15 South in the county. The applicant is Patrick James, who is the authorized agent for the property owner. This is a request to rezone 2.35 acres of a larger 29.12 acre tract from agricultural conservation to limited commercial. So this is the location map. The property, the greater property, is shown on the map in red. The property subject to this rezoning request is in the stripe line pattern. It fronts on Highway 15 South. So the property is currently zoned AC. All surrounding property is also zoned AC.
Mr. Chairman, if I could interrupt before you, could you go back one slide?
Absolutely.
Just one question. In the first reading, there was mention of cemetery. Is the cemetery the little square you see down directly below that on the border between two properties? That's what it came up when I checked. You you see what I'm speaking of? You need me to point it out on the map.
I'm getting into the aerial so I can look at it a little bit more.
You can scroll up, it's not in this picture.
It's not in this
No,
picture.
it's right below that.
I have heard that there is a cemetery near there. I can't confirm it off
If
the top of my head.
you can see it in the aerial, if you get to it. But anyway, I just want to make sure that nobody was under the impression it's right behind this property. It's not connected or anything. Anyway, that's all.
So just some background. The applicant is making this request to rezone from AC to limited commercial with the intent of placing a funeral home on the property. The parcel is currently vacant. Just some clarification on the conditional use process required. In the AC district now, a funeral home could be constructed under the conditional use 500 process. What this means is that in addition to meeting standard conditional use criteria, the applicant would also have to obtain 2/3 of property of consent signatures from property owners and tenants within 500 feet of the use. So there's that added requirement of getting surrounding owner buy-in on the proposal. They also must meet all AC development standards and other applicable requirements of the zoning ordinance. Funeral homes in the LC district are permitted by right. They must meet the LC development standards and all of the applicable zoning requirements. Just to kind of compare the two, the AC district does have more restrictive setbacks than the LC district. The LC district would require some paved parking and other more urban type development standards. Again, this is just a picture kind of more in detail of the area of property that would be subject to the request. And this, we do part of the decision-making process as far as staff analysis goes is it in alignment with our comprehensive plan? The property is located in the rural development planning area, which is the primary purpose is to support low-density residential development and selected non-residential and agricultural uses in a relaxed regulatory climate. This request is determined to be not generally consistent with the comp plan due to the surrounding residential uses and the fact that it's not at a major crossroad intersection as stated in the policies of the rural development planning area. So the Planning Commission did hear this request and they did recommend approval of this request, and I'll be happy to answer any questions for staff.
Questions, council? Prior to second reading, we have a public hearing on this ordinance. I'll call the public hearing open. Anyone who'd like to speak for or against this ordinance, please come to the podium. Please state your name for the record. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Gloria Neal Showers. I represent the Neal Family Association, who owns the Neal Cemetery off Highway 50 South. I queried the owners and the members of the association, and they have great concerns about putting up funeral homes in a residential area that's zoned agriculture. Our first concern is the proximity of the funeral home to the residential homes in the area. Given that this has been a project on the books for so long, based on your last meeting where it was stated that it had been approved for a cemetery, when I checked, there's no record of a cemetery approval. So that gave us great concern as well. And then the fear of soil contamination from the use of formaldehyde. How is it going to be disposed of? Will it seep into the ground? We have farms out here, and we're concerned about that. And the other is, will the funeral home have a crematorium? How will the ashes be made? What kind of chemicals will be used? And is it a detriment to the people living there? And the fourth concern is simply that we have worked with this family a long time, and it's not an adversarial position that we're taking, but we would have appreciated them talking to the residents in that area. Those are our concerns, so we disapprove of the funeral home being placed there. Thank you for this opportunity to express our concerns.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Good evening. My name is
Charlie Wells, and now have the property just adjacent to it, just north of it. And I do have a lot of the same concerns he has. I'm not against a funeral home, but I do have the concerns of pollutants, aerial pollutants and ground. And I have horses too, and I don't want, them complain about the smells coming from my property. Those are just some concerns. Thank you.
Anybody else? Seeing none, the public hearing is not closed.
Chairman, comment, please. I think I made comment at first reading also. We have in place AC conditional use, this is why it was set up, specifically why it was set up back when we did it, for rural areas like this. If we're just gonna go and start rezoning any place we want to out in the rural areas, then we may as well just go back and do away with countywide zoning and just say, well, have it, you do what you want to do then. But this is a perfect example of why. But we have in place a method to do it, and that's the AC, either 300 or 500 foot, where you go and you get 2/3 of the adjacent property owners to agree. If 2/3 of them don't agree, then you shouldn't be doing it. That's my opinion. If the neighbors don't want it, then you shouldn't be doing it. And so I just think it's zoned AC. He didn't have to ask for the request for a rezoning to accomplish what he wanted to do. He can do it with the AC zone and still have approval of the people, the adjacent property owners. It's not that hard of a process to go get signatures of X number of people that live within 500 feet of it. We're not talking about a mile, we're only talking 500 feet. And so I will be opposed to it still. I just think that's a process that should be played out instead of a rezone.
Mr. Chairman, I think my colleague from Wilson Hall laid it out perfectly. I thought the comments from the community were heartfelt and truthful. And as I have mentioned before, my position on issues like this is that I'm always going to side with the community because I think that's important. And as the councilman pointed out, there is a opportunity for them to move forward with the project in conjunction with the community, and I absolutely believe that development should be done in conjunction with community members. And so for those reasons, I will be supporting Councilman from Wilson Hall's suggestion to deny this.
Any other comments from council members or questions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, and my comments would be that even if it goes back to the original zoning where they are at liberty to develop, with getting that 3/4 of the residents to sign, I still feel like there should be consideration of the total community concerning those possibilities of contaminants, whether they're aerial or in the ground. We may not be making the decision to make the final decision for them to develop, but I would certainly hope that the developer would consider the possibility of contaminating the ground and the air in that area with the formaldehyde or what in the water, and it could be an adverse thing for the horses as well. So, and I concur with my colleagues, but I would like to ask, is the developer present?
Is the applicant?
The applicant is the applicant present?
I'm here.
Okay, well,
Who's the applicant?
I am.
Yes, sir. Would you like to speak?
sure.
On these questions? You come to the podium, please state your name.
Well, let me start off by saying good afternoon.
Yes, sir.
I'm Patrick James. So I'm listening to a few complaints or concerns. So let's start off with formaldehyde, first of all. In that cemetery, as the Neal Association, they have a well-established cemetery. A cemetery that's much older than the one that's there. That cemetery is still very used. So I'd like to say that I would think that that concern is kind of null and void. If they did not have a cemetery there, I could see where it would be a problem. The rules for that particular cemetery is that a outer burial container is required to go in that particular cemetery. So it's not just burying a wood casket or a metal unit straight into the ground. They have to be contained in some type of outer burial container. When we look at this, we still have to follow guidelines that are set forth and stated by the funeral board, which I'm a licensed funeral director in Balmer. So anytime that we do anything, my license is on the line. The next thing that I heard was contamination from a crematory. When you look at the smokestack of a cremator, it is actually being reduced where the contaminations or anything that's involved are actually burnt down and they're recycled back through, which is a EPA standard that we have to follow. So it's not as if we're just going out there burning trash. And I say that word lightly, where it would just be done. When you look at restaurants and those same type of air systems have to be approved before you can have a cremator building. Have I answered everyone's concerns? Are there any more?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Watson.
can I ask a question?
As well.
Was there any reason that you did not reach out to the community in advance of your application to possibly have a discussion and maybe work through some of the issues that have been outlined today, and then subsequent to that, maybe seek their support after resolving any questions that they may have? Is there a reason that that did not happen?
So there's no reason that it wasn't, the community was not acknowledged. Of course, there's no malice in not reaching out to the community. I figured the best way to do it is have a hearing, present above to a government body, and let the governing body make the decision. That was my take on it. We looked at it, we said, okay, we'll have a hearing, we can have a quorum, and that's what brought us here today. So there was no malice or ill intent to start the process. It's my belief that I did the right thing by doing it, by asking for a rezone.
So just as a information piece, the rural communities have had for a long time things done in those communities that were not desired. And so at this point, rural communities have begun to step up and defend themselves. And that's why I'm here.
Sure.
And so I would encourage you, and I would encourage any developer that now wants to go into a rural community to develop a relationship with the affected community, simply because it would make the process smoother.
Yes, sir, I do agree, but I'm part of that community. My address is Pinewood, so as I'd like to say, it's north of where the crow flies. So I'm not a stranger to that community by any means. And I get it, you know, we've had these same things that have happened in our community. We've looked at it with pigeon plants and things of that nature, so I do understand the concern. But my position is that what we're doing has no malice intent whatsoever. So it's my position that I thought I made the best decision where there is nothing that would be hidden. I laid it out, you know exactly what I want to do with it, what my plans are to do with it. And in anything you do, there's never going to be 100% agreements. And I'm okay with that as well.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have another comment, and then this last comment here, that will be 100%.
Yes, sir.
In the AC, we're looking for 66%.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So I
yes,
still stick by my case that I would rather see you
Disagree with you.
go that route.
Yes, sir.
That involves the community then, and the adjacent property owners, rather than a government body making that decision for them. In this case, sometimes we don't have a choice.
Yes, sir.
We have to. But in this case, you have the opportunity to go that route. I would rather see you go that route.
Okay.
Not opposed to it.
Yes, sir.
Mr.
I
Chairman.
don't live there.
Mr. Chairman, and I want to thank you for providing the explanations. You know, we haven't voted yet, but I
Yes,
can
ma'am.
tell it's leaning toward us not granting that it's done in this, using this procedure,
Okay.
but it will fall in your laps to
Sure.
do it, in your lap to
Okay.
do it
Okay.
with the 66%. And I hope that, you know, you can meet with the community and see what, you know, how, whether or not they are receptive of it. And if they're not, I hope that you will find something very, very productive to do that same amount of land that is not, you know, offensive. Thank you again.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
I'm gonna yield to Mr. Baker.
No, go ahead.
If you don't mind. Go ahead, Mr. Baker.
I want to suggest
Go ahead.
that maybe to continue the dialogue and maybe even get where you would like to go. And this is not advice, but this is a suggestion. You may ask to pull it back for a moment so that you can address the community and maybe work through a scenario that's palatable. That's not advice, just something you may want to think about.
Okay.
Mr. Baker.
Yes, thank you. If we vote on it now and we vote to disapprove second reading, that kills it.
It's there.
Why don't we defer second reading and give the
It
applicant,
does not kill it. It kills his application for a rezoning. It still does not kill the opportunity for him to move forward. He can still move forward with the current zoning. He just has to go get 2/3 of the adjacent
well, that's
property owners to
what
agree.
I'm saying. Why don't we give him that opportunity?
But it would still have to come back for a whole different
Right.
request. So it's gotta start back over. Either way.
Well, you have to start over, or we can't defer this process here and let him go and do what he wants to do with the 2/3 and then come back for second reading.
No, it would still have to go back to first reading. I'm from planning and that's.
Is
It'll
that-
go. How that process will work.
Is that?
It's not even gonna come back to us.
Is that? Thank you, Mr.
It
Yeah,
was
thank you for your time, Mr. Newell.
It's not
Council,
even
is
gonna come
that
back
council
to us.
discussion? Public hearing is closed, sorry. I let him speak because he's out. Yes, sir.
Yes, so the question is, if this, I think what I got the question is, if this is denied, the rezoning is denied, the applicant could submit a conditional use application. That would be, if all the conditions are met, including the condition of getting 2/3 of the property owners and tenants within 500 feet, then that would go forward without coming back to county council. But all those conditions would have to be met that are outlined in the zoning ordinance.
Mr. Chairman, I move for denial.
There's a motion for denial. Is there a second?
A second.
There's a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of denial of this request, say aye. All opposed? Nay. You in favor of the
Yeah,
denial?
I'm in favor of denial of the request.
You're in favor of denial? So votes 4-1. Moving on to old business. Ordinance number 22-978. Mr. Bryant.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, 16978 is ordinance to authorize the conveyance of property of 645, the city of Sumter. It's the old substation on Manning Avenue, vacant now. and the city intends to use it for, an art park. No changes since that.
Move to third reading. Motion, there a second? Do I hear a second?
Okay,
Thank you. All in favor, say, approve the third reading, say aye. Any opposition, no, unanimous. Mr. Bryan?
Mr. Chairman, next ordinance on the roll business is 22-979. That's an ordinance to approve sale or transfer of 538 South Main Street to the Sumter County Community Development Corporation. They can use it for low to moderate income housing.
Is there a motion?
Move for approval, third reading.
second.
There's a motion, a second approval. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Now down to committee reports. Mr. Blaney?
Council members.
No committee report, okay. Reports from council members of other meetings, sorry.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. I recognize Mr. Washington.
So, over the weekend, Councilman from Pinewood and I attended an event, and what was interesting about the event is that there were a lot of people there who asked questions about the penny tax and what it contained. And Mr. Chairman, I thought you did a good job of laying that out. Thank you for doing that. But it occurred to me that as a council and as a body that acts on behalf of the people, we could probably do something publicly while we're here between now and November to inform each district exactly what's contained in their district as it relates to the penny tax. And we'll probably need council's guidance on this, but I'm wondering if we could do something like each week. We may start with District 7, and District 7 may just inform people, these are the items that are on the ballot for District 7. We're not promoting it, we're sharing information with the public, which is our responsibility. And if folks are asking for that information, it's our responsibility to provide that information. And Mr. Chairman, you were in that meeting with me, and they asked and you answered, and I thought to myself, I wonder how many other citizens really don't know what's in the penny tax proposal specifically related to their district. And so I'd like for our esteemed administrator and council to have a conversation about whether moving forward, and each week it would be cumbersome to do all 7 districts in one meeting. So if each week, maybe we could start with District 7, lay out what's in District 7 for the penny for progress. Next week we'd go to District 6, District 5, and then going down in descending order. So the public who's watching will have a clear understanding of what they are voting on. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other council members?
I think that's a great idea. Maybe can also inform them as to the projects that have come to fruition in those specific districts, and those that are still pending.
Anybody else?
Well, my thing is that I think it's a good idea that people are informed before they vote. But we also have to make sure that people understand that there are projects on that list that is not unique to any one district, that they are combined and cover the whole county, and that we need to make sure that they are aware of that, because, you know, we talk about people living in the rural area, the county. Don't want them to get upset with people living in the city, because the city's gonna have projects that are really good for the city. And I don't want to see us playing tit for tat, the same way you're doing this in the city and not understanding the the process. So I want us to make sure that when we do this, that people understand the whole process.
Mr. Chairman, I know the city folks understand the process, but I will tell you, and I think the chairman will confirm, folks in the rural area now are tapped in and understand as well.
Right.
And so it would just be a education, information sharing process for each district. And I think folks are requesting that now.
Yeah.
And I just think it's public officials. And of course it will need to be lined up the right way. And we have a very capable county administrator, and we have capable legal counsel, so they'll make sure that you know, we don't get outside of the rails. But just as a matter of principle, if folks are asking, and they are, we have a responsibility to provide that information for them. This is a good vehicle to do it. We could do it 7 weeks straight because there's 7 council members. And each week we do a different district. It may be your district this week, maybe my district next week. And so I just think it's something that's been requested and we need to respond.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that 100%. I just want to make sure that we keep the eye on the prize. The goal is to pass the penny tax and making sure that people understand what benefit this penny tax has done for Sumter County. The last 2 7-year penny tax, and you know, so we need to make sure that they understand that it's a benefit to them, and so we don't want to get people say, oh, you're doing this here, you're doing this here, you're not doing this from here, you're not doing this from here. I don't want to get into that. I want to see the overall goal is that this penny tax is good for the citizens of Sumter County. That's it.
Monthly reports, Mary.
Okay, council, in your package, you will have the monthly report for the Airport Commission. You also have the monthly report for the Sheriff's Department. You have the festival on the Avenue that's coming up. And you also have the premiere of Waiting for Superman, and several council members have said that they will attend that. Additionally, there is Return to Bollywood, a red carpet affair, and any council member that would like to attend, please let me know. The Building and Planning Commission information is in your packet. And also, get down to this last one. The Planning Commission meeting is tomorrow. And then there's a ribbon cutting for the historic Lincoln High School. It's August the 25th at noon, and that's it. One thing is that if anyone plans to go to the chamber retreat and I have not spoken to you individually, please let me know.
County administration.
Chair, Council, good evening. Just a follow-up, if I can. First, I intend to speak about the capital penny sales tax, but first, what was mentioned tonight, I would remind Council that there's only 4 meetings left before we actually have the referendum election. So there's 4 meetings. Coincidentally, there are actually 4 categories of the capital penny sales tax, so that might be a better approach to focus on each one of the categories so that we can inform and educate the public. But certainly we could identify easily with each project what district name. Just so the focus may not be the district, the focus may be the projects and the categories so that we inform the public and people can see.
Mr. Chairman, can I work with the county administrator on that?
Yeah, be happy to have that conversation. The item I did want to report out tonight was that on August the 10th, staff presented the capital penny sales tax to the Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors, who at that time voted unanimously to support the capital penny sales tax and also to promote the capital penny sales tax, which is the part and the arm which the Chamber has done for the community for the last 2 previous pennies. So great news on that front. They are already starting to draw up their marketing campaign and efforts. More information to follow on that to council. But again, as the councilman indicated, the information that we can provide is about the project, so information about it. And we're putting together a pamphlet brochure for that can be utilized anywhere in the community. And then let the promotional piece be in the private sector. That's all I have. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon. Down now to public comment. If you would like to speak to council, now's your chance. Head to the podium, state your name for the record, and you have 3 minutes. Seeing none.
Adjournment.
Motion and a second.
Second.
We're now adjourned.